what support is available for people facing these challenges, and where can those working in this area signpost clients and families, particularly during periods of crisis?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because unfortunately crises are going to happen. We always talk about client-centered care, person-centered approaches, and I think that's really the crux of it. It's going to be very different to client A to client B, and I think as long as we can remain in touch with the realities of what our client and their family members need, I think we'll do quite well. But typically, and I don't even know if that's quite the right way to say it, but often the support that is around our clients when they are seriously and catastrophically injured is multidisciplinary. So we're talking about case management typically. There may be a rehab team in place, which will vary according to the rehab needs of the client. Often we have psychology, speech and language, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, often dietitians, and there may be other more sort of standard rehab support available, and sometimes more alternative, say for example acupuncture or something like this. And then we've got the other sub team, if you like, which is the care team. If we're talking about a client who is at home at this stage and is needing support that is beyond what family are willing or able to offer. But that will, of course, depend on whether it's one-to-one care, two-to-one care, 24/7 care, if it's nursing care, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of options out there. And of course, we are working in collaboration with the litigation system and the court of protection system. But it's really a team effort. I believe we have two superpowers as professionals that we can really offer our clients, and that's communication amongst ourselves and of course with our clients and their family members, but also collaboration. I think if we are talking but we're not doing anything with that talk and not trying to see how we can work alongside each other in quite a helpful way for our clients and their family members, we can run into trouble. We talked about consistency earlier. We talked about needing clarity, and I think good communication and collaborative strategies amongst the professional teams really helps. And in being communicative and being collaborative, what it also does is it helps us identify in advance, usually in a sort of preemptive way, when crises are going to happen. Because we're all talking and sharing information, it becomes much easier for us to be able to monitor and come to a part, supporting with a pathway of care and therapy that's going to keep any risk at bay. But as I say, the moment the crisis is going to happen, and the moment someone is showing crisis, for example, they may suddenly become withdrawn, or their behaviours become a bit more erratic, or perhaps they're expressing a sense of hopelessness and behaviours that may be associated with hopelessness and a deeper depression. It's really important that we act early. And how that acting early might look will vary for different clients. But I always would argue the case manager is one of the main coordinating, if not probably the best person or group of people to talk to share your concerns. And that's where the good communication comes in. They will then collaborate with the team around them to understand how best we can think about crisis management and support. And again, that can vary from client to client. It might be that we need, a 999 emergency sort of intervention. It might be that we need to increase certain supports or have conversations that are tricky, or mobilize other resources in the client's environment or in their setting. It might be signposting to particular agencies or services out there that can step in potentially. So being very well equipped as a case manager, and certainly sharing the resources of for this kind of situation, of a crisis situation, is going to be absolutely invaluable. And I think for families, it's I know I was going to say something else as well, sorry. I think the other thing, as a professional, it's important to know when to step in, and how to do that gently, sensitively, but also with compassion, because we can, again, we need to be thinking about a crisis and supporting not just our client and the family, but also the network around. It's very easy to trigger when everyone's quite heightened already with their emotions and the anxiety. For families, I think it's really okay to say that you don't have the answers, but that we will work together to find the answers, which again is quite a hard thing, I think, sometimes for professionals to say, and to act on. And I think knowing who to ask, and giving the family the space to feel safe in what they're experiencing and what they're feeling is also incredibly important, and can make a massive difference to how they meet any crises. It's kind of based on our emotional intelligence rather than our cognitive intelligence, if you will. But as I mentioned before, accepting that trauma is presented, and sitting with that distress is probably one of the best things that we can do, alongside signposting and collaborating with others around.
That's really interesting what you say, because as a professional deputy, we're often approached by the MDT or by family members asking for support to access psychological services for family members. And obviously that is ultimately spending P's money on supporting other people in the family, and where that ultimately is going to benefit P because the dynamic may change, or that individual who is so important to P in their life, and how things happen for them day to day. If they're not feeling okay, or they're not 100%, then that can have a real impact on P, and therefore we often do authorise those costs and agree to provide that psychological support. And we see how important that is, but also the impact it can have is wonderful. It's amazing that it can really support people to move through those periods of distress and difficulty, and come out the other side, obviously, in a much better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you are a family, I've heard this a couple of times recently, actually, where family members say, when I'm seen, I can do the best job I can do for my client, for my family member, but when I'm not seen, I'm relied on nonetheless to still provide that support, but I do it with extra baggage now, and without the resources that I need in order to be able to support my family member. And I think you're talking to that very clearly. But also the research does say that if you support family and scaffold the family adequately, the client's rehab outcomes do improve. So I think it makes a lot of sense scientifically, humanly, but also in terms of what we've observed, I'm sure, over the years of doing this, that a sort of stable parent of a pediatric client, or a stable partner of an injured adult, can make a massive difference. Particularly in terms of engagement as well with the wider system, because often we end up talking to the parents about the child, or the partner about the clients, the adult clients. So we can't have one without the other, I don't think.
No,
essentially.
Definitely
So
not.
it makes a lot of sense that you say that, and it's really nice to hear you say that, actually.